Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good day and God bless you. Let's get into the news. And Marjorie Taylor Greene had a debate over the weekend with her Democrat opponent, but not only was she debating the Democrat opponents, she was debating the mainstream media at the same time, because they had PBS there who wanted to continue to try to fact-check her as during the debate, which of course they only fact-check one side only due to Republicans because they want to continue to push this notion that Republicans are the only ones who have ever disagreed with elections. And because if you disagree with the 2020 election, then you, my friend or election denier, don't. Never mind all the other times Democrats have considered President Trump illegitimate, President Bush illegitimate, etc., etc. Because it's okay when they do it is different when they do it because it's democracy to only have one party rule. And that is how the Democrat Party operates, and that's how their armed in mainstream media operates. So Marjorie Taylor Greene puts on a show on how you deal with a hostile media, mainstream media, in the form of debate. So let's dive into it here. Let's take a listen to how Marjorie Taylor Greene handles this. Alright, it's to market to Kelly Green there. You're well known for making controversial statements. Detail your process for vetting and fact-checking your statements that you make in public and post social media. Marjorie Taylor Greene said, "Can you tell me what's controversy? Controversy all about defending that freedom of speech? Or what's controversial about defending our border or saying we need to? What can you tell me? Give me an example." No, you do this every time we have a debate where you and I ask a question that's obvious. And you're like, "What do you mean? You were kicked off with your committees for saying things were controversial. You've apologized for controversial statements, right? Those types of things? What is your process for fact-checking and vetting the things that you say in public?" And Marjorie Taylor Greene said, "The things I say in public are the truth. And that's why they're so offensive to Democrat activists in the media just like you, and you're asking me a blanket question with no example. I stand by the things that I say. I stand by saying that we need to secure our border, that we need to protect all of our freedoms and our rights, that we need to stop the America Last Democrat communist policies that are destroying our country. I stand by the words that I say. They're just offensive to Washington, D.C. and the swamp creatures there. Because the words that I speak are the same as Americans back home, the same as people in Georgia's 14th district. And the words that I speak are the truth. And you want to know something, Josh? Sometimes the truth hurts and Washington deserves to hear it. Wherever $31 trillion in debt, our government has failed the American people. And right now this administration has us on the verge of a nuclear war with Russia, where they care more about funding a war in Ukraine than they care about protecting Americans, helping homeless people on the streets, and securing our border and stopping fentanyl from killing young people in America. Okay, my friends, that's a masterclass on how you treat the mainstream media. You treat them like the enemy because they are the enemy. In these types of settings, they are doing the work of the Democrat Party, because they won't use the same type of language against us on a Democrat than they will use on the Republican. Marjorie Taylor Greene stepped out pretty quickly there. It was able to turn the tables right back onto them, and calling the Democrat Party communist is right on the nose. It's absolutely true. They care about full and total control. They don't view any election as legitimate unless it's a Democrat-won election, because there's only shouldn't be one party rule. And that's how the media continues to lay it out there for the American people, that it's only a good election if Democrats win. If Republicans win, then there's something wrong. It's bad for democracy. That's how they view these things. And Marjorie Taylor Greene once again put on a clinic on how you take care of these mainstream media goals. And then, some significant news, if you needed any more evidence that the election was slipping out of the Democrats' hands, that's feeding into the Democrat narrative in the first place that it was ever really within their hands. But if you needed any more evidence that the Democrats are on track to lose, then look no further. Joe Biden's favorite polling firm, Harvard Harris X polls, which of course we've been covering for over a year at this point quite extensively. You know, those same polls that when Joe Biden had a 45% approval rating, as he was tanking in the polls post-Kabul or the fall of Kabul, the Afghanistan withdrawal failure, while all the legitimate pollsters had him at 45%. And then subsequently, he moved down below 40%. Harvard Harris X would have you believe that Joe Biden's approval rating was still 58% or 56%. One of the biggest jokes in the polling industry. Nothing but Democrats. Shill DNC push polls. Well, folks, where I'm getting it with this is when Harvard-Harris X releases a poll that shows that not only are Democrats losing, but they're about to get stomped out of. Well, then if you are a leftist activist who has been coping about the 2022 election, well, you might want to look away. You might want to go back into your Twitter bubble in your little safe space where your mental health is protected by facts, statistics, and data that disprove your worldview. You might want to turn this video off. In fact, you might want to go into the forest and join Hillary Clinton, because an absolute show lacking of the Democrats seems to be priced in, folks, as Harvard-Harris X is showing Republican generic congressional ballot support at 53%. Not only are they leading, but supposedly Republicans are over the majority line when it comes to support for Congress. Left-OID brains are exploding everywhere. So who knows, the end of 2022 might be spectacular. Alright, folks, so let's delve into the data. The closer we get to Election Day, a lot of undecided voters are finally making their decisions. And as you guys can see, it seems as though the Republicans are running away with this one. And this is due to the last 5 polls that have hit. Rasmussen reports at +7 for Republicans, Trafalgar Group at +5, the CBS News poll shows Republicans that a +2 lead, and the Harvard-Harris poll shows Republicans with a +6 lead. I mean, this is almost unfathomable. But the craziest thing of all is that Republican column on that Harvard-Harris poll. Supposedly, according to this data, Republicans are winning 53% of the vote with likely voters, not registered voters. That's an important distinction, which means this red wave, which some people were thinking might be a little red tricolor red drop, might actually be a red tsunami, where Republicans win the popular vote nationwide, absolutely stunning the nation and sweeping races that you might not have even expected. This puts Democrats in a seriously bad scenario. They're relying solely on the polls at face value. But I'm telling you folks, on Election Day, the polls might be wrong by 6%. Why? Do I say 6%? Because that's happened in the past many times. Republican support is almost always underestimated. Well, this Harvard-Harris poll might be the only one that's figured out how to tap into how voters are actually thinking. Oh, and of course, we have to look at this Fox News poll. Fox News data very quickly becoming some of the most discredited garbage in the polling industry. First of all, just a couple of weeks from the election. Why are you releasing polls that are sampling registered voters instead of likely voters? How stupid is that, showing Republican support of 41% with a Democrat +3 lead? It just doesn't make sense, folks. The polls showing Democrats in the lead at all usually are not screening for likely voters. They're just looking at registered voters. They're doing something wrong. They're clear outliers. The trend here is showing Republicans at anywhere from +2 to +7, signaling an election sweep across the nation. Democrats are not in a good position. And to make that point, let's delve into this Harvard-Harris X capsule where everywhere you look, Democrats are underwater. Let's start off with Joe Biden on key issues. As you guys can see, I mean, the title says it all. Biden's approval on management of issues is weak across the board. He is underwater in every single key issue. And especially the top issues. The only place where Joe Biden seems to be succeeding, of course within quotation marks, is in his reaction to the virus. But even when you look there, and you compare it to the data from when he first got inaugurated, he's down 20 points from a high of 71% in March 2021 to now 51% in October 2022. His presidency is crumbling. And as we know, a midterm election during a president's first term is almost always a referendum on his leadership. And just as Jen Psaki said, if this is a referendum on Joe Biden's leadership, they're done. And frankly, it might be a referendum on Democrat leadership in general. Democratic Party approval has plateaued after rising now 46%. Once again, Democrats saw a huge resurgence after Joe Biden's inauguration, peaking at around 55% approval and 45% disapproval, a 10-point gap. Well, it's now almost flipped on its head. Democrat Party approval sitting at 46%, disapproval at 54%. And if we look at the GOP, the opposite is true. GOP approval has risen 4 points in the last 4 months, now at 49%. Not to mention if we go all the way back to March 18th. What we're seeing here is a steady climb all the way up. If we draw a correlation line across GOP approval, well, the trend is absolutely clear. In fact, it's undeniable. This right here, folks, is a visual representation through the data, visualizing exactly what I'm always going on about: the rise of a new conservative age, Support for Republicans, support for conservatives across the Western world is on the rise after Donald Trump's presidency, and then everything that transpired from, let's say, 2019 all the way to 2022. People are waking up like never before. Elitist liberalism is on the decline and fiscally conservative nationalist, populist conservatism. And even in the cultural sphere, traditionalism is on the rise. People are finally waking up. You know, over the last couple of years, politics has really been so focused on the culture war, which of course, is an important element. I'm not going to pretend like there aren't important issues there. But really over the last, let's say, 15 years, the political discussion in a certain way has been quite shallow, at least from a macro perspective. But lately, all of a sudden, it seems as though policy has taken the forefront again. All of a sudden monetary policy is at the forefront of political discussion and debate. All of a sudden, we're talking about things that matter, like energy independence, free trade, low tax environment, fiscal responsibility, reducing the deficit. You know, these are people that over the last 15 years, they've been present. Of course, people are having these discussions, but for the most part they've been within their own realm. And the discussion at large in the world of politics has been nothing but nonsense, garbage and distraction. All of a sudden, Democrats have lost their power to distract. And actually, if you think about it, without Donald Trump in office, it's almost as if they don't have a tool of distraction anymore. There's no using Donald Trump to distract away from their clear fiscal and monetary policy failures. There is no longer a convenient distraction for Democrats to use as a cloak. They tried to. The whole January 6th nonsense didn't work, fell flat on its face. And now all of a sudden, the meta discussion, the macro level discussion is policy, and regular people are looking at monetary policy and paying attention to good monetary policy and energy policy, and they're having a clear wake up moment. What the hell have I been thinking? Voting for money grows on trees. Democrats and liberals thinking this thing was going to end well, and wasn't going to crash and burn. That's like handing over the financial aspect of your company, of your business, to a damn crack addict Hunter Biden, and expecting him to do a good job. Is it any surprise that he led your company bankrupt and $5 million in debt trying to fund his crack cocaine addiction? Yes, liberals are political crack addicts. That is exactly what I am saying. But anyways, I've made my point. There is a serious conservative resurgence here, folks. It's pretty much undeniable at this point. We're seeing it in Sweden, Canada, Italy. We've seen it in various other countries, and I believe we're going to see it in the United States of America as well. And if Harvard-Harris polling data is suggesting that, well, then we must be onto something. Keep coping, left Boyd's. Your thought you'll flush the red wave, but it's about to crash on the shore, leaving everything in its wake red. Thanks for being here, folks. Remember where we go. 1. We go all. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button to watch the next episode.